Hello, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. So nice to see you. I just saw some people. We had a coaching call in the Connections membership, but I am happy to have you here. We'll give it a second, let everybody come in. There we go. We are talking all about worry. I was trying not to worry about doing this workshop. All right. We have, okay. So, someone else popping in about worry. So I'll let people in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Some of you are very familiar to me, so I can co-regulate by seeing your faces. Other people are brand new, so welcome. I am excited to have you here. I'm excited for you to learn more with me about worry and why we worry. And even if you have felt that you're not necessarily a worrier, I think you will see how some of these patterns and what goes on can be really helpful. Hopefully everybody, if you were in this workshop live, then you would have received the worry pad, which is just like this. Hopefully you have the opportunity. It is comes with its own little set of instructions, and then it has the actual pad as well, which we're going to go through exactly the protocol. We're going to be talking about the protocol. You can read what's in it. This will guide you through. Also, if you don't want to read every time on your worry pad, the simple instructions are here. And I'll use the word simple, and I hope you realize simple does not mean easy, because sometimes the simplest things are the hardest things for us to implement. So we will get started. I am going to share my screen and we will go from there. Okay, so we're going to dive deeper into how to use the Worry Time program, how to use the pad, how to benefit from it. I'm going to talk in this workshop, we're going to go much deeper into what worry is. Why is it a problem? What are some of the common misconceptions about worry? And then we'll look at the protocol. I do want to say up front that this protocol, you'll see right on it, it says, if I can see it, is evidence-based. And what that means is drawn on research that has been done. People have looked at these protocols, and this is all when I created it. Although I added some of my own twists, I always like to make sure that it is backed on the science and is backed on people who have sort of run the test with it. I invite you to do your own experiment with it. And like anything that we're trying for the first time, doing it once, doing it twice, doing it 3 times, give yourself some time, especially when we're trying to develop a new habit. And you'll see that we're trying to stop the habit of worrying and replace it with other things. So give yourself some time to do it. So as we go through. Now, by way of introduction, like I said, some of you know me well. Some of you, this is the first time for introduction. So my name is Leah Davidson. I am a life coach with a focus on nervous system resilience. I have also been a speech language pathologist for over 26 years, working in the area of traumatic brain injury. So that is where my passion for all things brain and nervous system and neuroplasticity and executive function skills and all those good things comes from. I have a podcast called Building Resilience, which I invite you to listen to. I drop new episodes every single Wednesday. It's also on YouTube, so you can come over there and you can watch me on video. I don't like doing video, but I know that sometimes people do better. I prefer watching videos. I also run a community on SKOOL. It's currently called the Nervous System Journaling Club. I also have another monthly membership, which is more of a premium membership called Connections. but I'll just let you know there's some things changing with the membership, so stay tuned for some updates with all that. I also have an immersive 6-month training program for nervous system resilience for a mixture of helping professionals, coaches, and then people who really want to do a deep dive into their nervous system. That is a container that is absolutely transformational. So I love it when people are able to see the results very clearly of working in the nervous system. And what you have here in your hands is my third product in my mental health stationery line. Resilient Brilliance is what it's called. Currently, my products are sold under Amazon, and this year hoping to do some more wholesale. So pretty exciting about that. On a personal level, I am from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I'm married. We've got a blended family of 5 adult kids, or young adult kids, emerging adults, I think is what some of them are referred to. And our family's quickly expanding with partners coming into the picture, which is really putting my ability to regulate my own nervous system to the test. So that's a bit about me. Now let's dive in and we're going to talk about worry. And what is worry? Worry is really your brain running rehearsals all the time for things it thinks might hurt you. The past, the present, or the future. It is not trying to annoy you. It is actually trying to protect you. But what often happens is instead of giving you this clarity that you so desperately want, worry usually ramps up stress and keeps your nervous system stuck on high alert. Now, worry is automatic. It's like a thought that pops in, kind of like someone randomly coming up and knocking on your door. And I'll go deeper in that analogy in a second. But the important thing is you cannot control who knocks on your door. What you can control is whether you let them in. And that is the difference between worry and worrying. So I really want to highlight this difference because it's pretty important. Worry is an intrusive thought. It is the knock at the door. And we can acknowledge that we have zero control. We may have a little bit of control, but we pretty much, I don't know how much control you have over who comes knocking on your door. It's little. Worrying is the active part of it. It's like the more of a verb than worry is. This is the part where you decide what happens next. You get the knock on the door, you get the worry. The worrying is, do you open the door? Do you entertain who is there? Do you invite it in? Do you allow them to be a guest for the week? That part is in your control. And this distinction is really important to make because most people blame themselves for having worries. The real issue is not having worries. The real issue is the habit that we have engaging in the worries. So worry knocks, worrying invites it in. Now, there are kind of like 3 categories or 3 directions that worry can go. We can look at worry in the past, in the present, and the future. And if you're lucky, you have all 3. But most people think worry is only about what might happen. But worry kind of hooks us into other things. It hooks us into the past, hooks us into the present. We sort of know like, oh, I'm worrying about what's going to happen down the road, but I'm sorry to tell you, we're also worrying about the past and worrying about the present. So let me give you some examples so you can see what I mean. And if you resonate with this, I want you to just be building up the awareness. It's normal. We have tendencies. This is protective. Remember, we're not doing anything wrong. So past oriented worry is, oh my gosh, did I mess that up? Or, oh, I should have handled that differently. Or what if they're still upset with me? So your brain scans all the old files and it's looking for unresolved threat signals. And it feels very productive, but it doesn't actually solve anything. It just keeps your nervous system looping, acting as if the past is still happening. Because remember, the nervous system doesn't have a timestamp. It doesn't know when things happen. So if you're thinking about things from the past, your nervous system is registering it as happening right now. So it could be replaying conversations or beating yourself up about a mistake that you made or second guessing a decision that you made or ruminating on something that maybe you've already even resolved or apologized for. So the analogy I love to use with this is kind of like rewarding or rewatching security footage that you have, trying to prevent what has already happened. So I'm going to rewatch this footage so that I can prevent what already happens. Well, you know, no matter how long you stare at the screen and how many times you rewatch it, you're not going to be able to change it. So that is our past worry. Our present focused worry, some of the thoughts are things like, well, what if I can't handle it today? What if the symptom that I have means something scary? What if I say the wrong thing in this meeting? What if I mess up this presentation? And so this is when your brain is trying to almost micromanage the exact moment that you're standing in. And it feels very, very urgent because it's tied to what's directly in front of you. So some examples are just worrying about how you're going to get everything done today. I am like the queen of this. Oh my gosh, I have so much to do. How am I going to get it all done? That's worrying in the present. Or fixating on somebody's response or how they're looking at you or their facial expression. Or checking your phone just in case. Did that message come in? Did they respond to me? When are they going to respond to me? And did you know that it can also show up monitoring your body for signs of stress or symptoms that you have? That's a version of it. So the analogy is it's kind of like you're refreshing the page, expecting, on your webpage, expecting new information to pop up, even though nothing new has been posted. And so your nervous system is wasting energy and it's trying to anticipate every single possible outcome, every single unexpected curveball. And then the future-oriented worry is one that we're sort of more accustomed to. It's the what if it goes wrong? What if I can't figure this out? What if something bad happens? So it's the traditional what if spiral. Your brain is trying to figure out how to deal with uncertainty, and it's trying to outrun uncertainty. And examples of this is it will imagine the worst case scenarios. It will try to plan for every single possible outcome. It will anticipate disasters that haven't even happened. It's going to worry about how the other people are going to react. And the analogy I have, and I was trying to think of a different analogy because I don't like this one because I am a big, heavy packer. But it is like packing for a trip that you haven't even decided to take. And you're hauling around all these tons of packed bags with the what if outfits. What if it rains? What if it's colder? What if I have this crazy one that my husband and I like to go to Mexico. And I'm like, what do I need? I know when I'm there, I need a swimsuit, I need a dress, I maybe need like something to wear on the plane. But in my mind, I'm always like, What if it's hit by a hurricane and we have to be relocated and we're stuck there for 3 weeks? Well, then I would need all these outfits. That's the kind of what if worry that future oriented worry does. Not very helpful. Why is it a problem? Why can't I just I carry around, I overpack? What's the big deal about overpacking? It's not such a big deal, right? Well, I want us to remove the label that worry is bad, but it is inefficient. And your nervous system does interpret worry as a potential threat, even if the threat is imaginary. Because remember, the nervous system doesn't know the difference between real and perceived. That's what makes it so problematic, because it will hijack your energy, your clarity, your capacity long before anything else actually even happens. So let's look at some of the inefficiencies, some of the ways that worry is problematic. Well, the first way is if you struggle with anxiety, if you experience anxiety, you're likely not too far from worry. Worry is the thought, anxiety is the feeling, and then stress is the body's response for it. Worry sets the stage of anxiety, and worry amplifies anxiety. And when you start elaborating on a worry, rehearsing scenarios, imagining reactions, and mentally preparing for disasters, your nervous system is automatically going to shift into protection mode. Of course it is. That's its role. So then your body will tighten, your mind will narrow, you'll become very focused, your heart rate will picks up. Your nervous system then believes like, okay, something is actually happening. And that's why anxiety can escalate really, really fast, because your body is responding to this movie that your mind is playing out, not necessarily the moment that you're in. So an example is maybe, we've got a big snowstorm here in Toronto right now. So maybe I'm going to worry about my partner or my kid driving in the snow, and I'll be thinking about it. Before I know it, my chest is tight, my thoughts are racing. I'm convinced that something terrible is happening, even though they're likely perfectly fine. So worry feeds anxiety. It fuels anxiety. If you feel that you have a lot of anxiety in your life, you want to see how much worry are you feeding that anxiety. The second thing is worry, plain and simple, it wastes energy. Worry may feel like it's problem solving, but it is not. It kind of burns through your fuel without producing anything useful. Your nervous system, again, it can't distinguish between a real threat and an imagined one. So when you engage with worry, your body doesn't know that there's nothing to worry about technically. There's no real threat. Your body starts prepping for action. So then the cortisol increases and your muscles tense and your digestion slows down and your mental bandwidth shrinking. That zone of resilience is shrinking. And all of this is really expensive. It's draining your energy. It's draining the energy that you actually need, ironically, to handle your real life in the present. It's just draining it. So it is like driving around with your foot on the gas, the brake at the same time. You are burning fuel, you are going nowhere, and you're stressing the whole system. So you can think an example is maybe you're worrying about, you spend 20 minutes worrying about some presentation that you're giving in 2 weeks' time. And by that end of the spiral, you're probably exhausted, but you really haven't done anything. Nothing's changed. So worry is an energy waster. Now, the third thing, worry teaches your brain that uncertainty is danger. Now, your brain is always learning, always, always, always. Every time you follow the path of a little worry and you analyze it and you debate it and you try to control it, you're actually teaching your brain uncertainty is unsafe. That's good to know. I'll make sure that I flag it every time it comes up. I'll probably even flag it even more. So uncertainty becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And this is how worry can become a habit loop. The more you engage with it, the more your brain is going to scan for potential issues. It believes it is helping you prepare. But all it's doing is it's reinforcing the need that you're going to have to be hypervigilant. So an example is you can worry about a symptom that you have. You'll worry about a symptom. Your brain thinks symptoms equal danger. And now your brain starts scanning your body all day long. And you find more symptoms. And then there's more worry. And then there's a stronger belief that this must mean that something is bad. And we may even label it as intuition, but often it's just conditioning. We're training. We're training ourselves. If I worry about this, it must mean danger. And then lastly, worry creates a worry cycle. And the worry cycle it's kind of simple. You worry, you engage with your worry, it increases your anxiety. You actually get a temporary hit of relief, and then it leads you to more worry. Now, you may wonder, okay, what about that relief? Well, after you spiral, your brain kind of is like, well, I did something. It kind of feels productive. It feels like you took action. Worrying feels like it's necessary. It feels like it's productive. So that small hit of relief that you get in the moment reinforces the behavior, reinforces worry, that worry is helping. So then your brain keeps repeating it. But over time, but we're not changing anything. We're just getting this little hit of relief. But then over time, what happens is the cycle becomes more and more pronounced. That's the beauty of neuroplasticity. It's for the good things, but it's also for the things that aren't helpful. Your cycle becomes automatic. The thoughts show up faster. Your spirals get longer. And that threshold for worry gets lower and lower. So then worry becomes this default response to any uncertainty, no matter how small it is. So it can send like, like somebody sends a text to you a little bit later than you wanted. It could send you into a full mental investigation. And, your brain is like, well, I'm taking care of this and I'm trying to figure this out. Your brain ends up just practicing this pathway so many times that it will end up firing instantly all these worries. So those are why some of the ways that worry feeds these things. But the real problem isn't actually worry, as we've already said. These worries are going to pop up, but it is the pattern. Worry knocking on your door, like I said earlier, it is normal. But your brain is built to anticipate, to predict, and to protect. And the issue happens when worry kind of becomes the primary way that you cope with things. And that's problematic because worry steals your focus. It shrinks your capacity to handle things. It hijacks your ability to be in the present moment because you're spending so much time over here and so much time over here. And it trains your nervous system to live in survival mode, even when you are safe. The Worry Time program and pad is created to interrupt this cycle by giving your brain containment and structure and clarity about when to engage and when to step away. So we'll talk more about that in a second. But I want to address some more common misconceptions and myths about worry, because I think that as much as you can see why, I can see that worry contributes, drains my energy and the anxiety, a lot of us sort of think like, but worry's good for other reasons, because we have these misconceptions, these myths that keep us stuck in this rumination loop, because these misconceptions and myths, they kind of feel true. It's kind of like they scratch the itch. or they soothe some discomfort that we have. But each misconception, it kind of reinforces the idea that worry is helpful when it's not. And I hope by the end of this you'll see it's not helpful. It's normal that knock, 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 then we get to decide. It's normal if we have answered it in the same way, we create a habit loop. But worry really gives us a false illusion of control and a false sense that we can prevent things. So the first myth, and this one is one that I think we get trapped in. I feel like I get trapped in as a parent a lot. Worrying shows I care. And I always give the example. If I tell you, something's going on with one of my kids and somebody says to me, "Are you worried about them?" And my answer is like, "No, I'm not worried about them." I feel like there's probably going to be some judgment. How can you not be worried about your kids? Like, what mother doesn't worry about her kids? So this one, worrying shows I care. It's kind of sneaky because it feels like love. It feels like commitment. It feels very, very noble. It feels like what I should be doing as a parent. But worry is inward focused. It centers your fear, your discomfort, your need for certainty. It doesn't actually support the person that you care about. The reality is, caring is active and worrying is passive. So caring can look like checking in with somebody, offering support, setting boundaries, communicating, showing up. Worry is sitting in your head running through the loops about someone. We get this emotional reward. Worry can feel like proof that you care, but the reward is actually false assurance. It's not connection. We do not worry our way to connection. I don't love my kids more if I worry about them. Worry is not connecting. So an example is if you're worrying endlessly about, your teenager getting home safely, in your head, worry, worry, worry. But the caring action is you've been helping them all along practice safe choices. You have some clear agreements and boundaries. You are resting when they are home so that you can be the resource parent to help support them in what they need. And worry will drain you, will put you on edge, will keep you in a state of dysregulation. Caring is in that safe place. It will actually strengthen you. The next myth of worrying, and this is also a hard one to break, worrying prevents bad things from happening. And it doesn't seem logical. Like, I bet you when you say that, everybody's like, yeah, I know that's not true. We don't usually admit, but I kind of act that way. So I'm not going to say it because logically I know that I can't prevent bad things from happening, but behaviorally, I'm worrying. It's kind of like this protective, like, charm that I have, a lucky charm. I'm going to worry, and so then it's not going to happen. So I think through everything that could go wrong, and maybe nothing will go wrong. And I think that if I stay on high alert, I'm going to catch the danger early. And it kind of is this idea of this prevention myth. Now, the reality is worry changes nothing about the external world. All it will do is it will change your internal world, and usually not for the better. It keeps your nervous system locked in anticipation mode, waiting for something to go wrong. And it creates chronic stress without offering really a single ounce of real protection. It's not protecting you from anything. It is providing lots of chronic stress. If you are struggling with chronic stress, chronic symptoms, again, you're probably in a worry neighborhood. So some examples is maybe you worry a lot before, say, a medical appointment. Well, the appointment will unfold the same way, whether you worry for 3 minutes before, 3 days, or 3 months. We're not going to be changing that outcome. The third myth is worrying will prepare me, though, for future problems. And this is very, very, very socially accepted. I think we genuinely believe that being worried is responsible. I am a responsible parent if I worry about my kids. Now, planning is responsible. Preparation is responsible and helpful. But don't mix up that worrying equals planning. Now, I will offer to you for all these myths, initially, sometimes a little bit of worry can get us to the point of taking some action, of exploring something. So I'm not saying like you have a symptom, I'll never worry. Sometimes there's enough that moves us into action, but worry that is passive is not helpful. If there is just a smidgen of worry that gets us to action, okay, keep that little bit of worry. But after we have done the action to motivate us to move into a certain direction where we're taking the action, it really does become unnecessary. And then what we need to do is we need to shift into something like planning. Planning has structure. Worry is this open-ended loop. Planning creates clarity and direction. Worry just creates tension and confusion. Your body can tell the difference when you're planning or when you're worrying. Planning feels steady and organized, and worry can often feel very, very urgent and frantic. Worry pulls you out of the present. It reduces your clarity and it wastes energy, like we've already mentioned. So planning is what is one concrete step I can take before this deadline. Worry is, what if I can't do it? What if I fail? What if people judge me? One moves you forward. Planning moves you forward with some action. Worry will paralyze you and keep you spinning, creating different scenarios. So an analogy, again, a travel one. Planning is packing a few essential items and maybe one or two things extra for a trip that you're planning on taking. Whereas worrying is packing those 14 suitcases for every possible version. There's going to be a storm. What if there's a delay? What if I get sick? What if I lose luggage? Even when you haven't even booked a ticket, you've already got that. And then the last myth is I can't control my worrying. I'm just a worrier. We carry this as a badge. Some people, it's even a badge of honor because, again, they believe worrying shows I care. Worrying is where I'm being more responsible. Worrying is I'm preventing and I'm protecting. I can't control my worrying. It usually just comes from this idea that we've been discouraged and we feel like we can't control. So it's understandable that we can feel this way. If worry has been running the show for years and years and years, it will feel automatic. It will feel powerful. But you can't control the arrival of a worry, but you can control your engagement with it. So when you say, I can't control my worrying, you can control your worrying. You may not be able to control that first worry that arrives. That thought is automatic. The spiral is then learned. And it's that spiral that can be unlearned. And this is why worry time, this protocol we're talking about, works. Because it retrains your brain to delay the engagement with the worry, to contain the rumination, to shift your attention, and to break the loop and reduce that urgency signal. So your nervous system then learns, okay, the thought is allowed to knock. I'm not going to try to control so that there's no knocking at my door, but I don't have to answer it. And I certainly don't have to answer it right now. So if worry pops up at 10 in the morning, the old habit will be like, I got to spin and control and I got to try to contain it, micromanage it. But a new habit could be, oh, it's good to know. I'm going to bring that to worry time when it's scheduled at 4 p.m. And we're disrupting it. This is a skill. We're taking back control in a way that's more realistic for our nervous system. So worry really feels convincing because it mimics responsibility, it mimics preparedness, and it mimics care. But worry is none of those things. It's just a habit that your brain learned, and habits, of course, can be rewired. Okay, so next we're going to launch into the actual worry time method, but I will pause here. Does anybody have any questions about what we've talked about so far? And I can also, maybe actually, I'll keep it to the end so that if, because maybe I'll end up answering it as we continue along because I have a few more things. So skip that, hold your questions. I'm happy to answer them at the end. But I want to talk now about the daily worry time method. The core principle is instead of letting worries interrupt you constantly throughout the day, you're dedicating a specific time to address them, like scheduling things. You're scheduling the meals instead of constantly snacking throughout the day. Or you're setting the trash pickup time instead of just letting it pile up. And there are benefits for doing this. Fewer intrusive thoughts during the day, reduced overall anxiety, better control over your worry habit, and improved focus on the present moment. And we're going to talk about all these things. So the analogy that I love to give and that I shared is office hours. Right now, your worries are showing up whenever they want to. Kind of like students going around knocking on a professor's door all day long with questions. Now, the professor doesn't end up teaching anything. All they're doing is sort of reacting. And there's no space for that professor to actually think clearly. And professors know, I'm not going to be able to get my job done. I'm not going to be able to do my research or my planning and my teaching if somebody is knocking all day long. But I still need to address the questions that my students have. So what do? They set up office hours. A dedicated time where you can come as a student with questions and a clear boundary around the rest of the day. This is my office hours. Drop in. I'll answer all the questions there, but don't keep poking me throughout the day. And you're doing this with your mind. Without having office hours, what happens is your brain is constantly interrupting you. Hey, quick question. What if this goes wrong? Hey, quick question. Do you remember what we talked about yesterday? Quick question. What if this happens? What are they doing? What if you, all this stuff. With office hours for your brain learns, hey, she's dealing with that at 4 p.m. Kind of like what I just did with you just now. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, wait, hold a second. I'm not going to be interrupting answering questions throughout this. But I am going to give you office hours. And so if you have a burning question, you can say to your mind, oh, she said she's going to answer at the end. So I can just keep it aside and I can keep listening to what she's doing now because I'll get my question answered at the end. We're offering that to our brain. She'll deal with this at the end. You'll deal with this at 4 p.m. You don't have to barge in now. And this works because, like we said, worry is the direct cause of anxiety, one of the direct causes of anxiety. And when you give your worries a designated home, a space, you're training your mind to contain them within a specific time frame. That is going to lead to eventually fewer intrusions throughout the day, reduce your overall anxiety, give your brain structure and containment, give you better control over your worry habit, and improve your ability to be focused on the present moment. So, this question that you might have, when you can say to your brain, hey, we'll ask her that question at the end, your brain can come back and say, let's focus on what she's talking about right now. It keeps you out of this what if loop all day long. And most importantly, your brain will stop treating worry like it's this big emergency that you have to drop everything and deal with. Because right now, when you're answering these worries all the time, you're training your nervous system that every concern you have is an emergency. And that is a lot for your nervous system. You got a lot of emergencies going on during the day. So if you look at your pad and what the instructions are, again, I tried to give you some background, the buy-in, the evidence, what is behind the worry time protocol, and then the instructions. And then you also have the instructions here. Set your office hours. That's the first thing. Choose your time. Set your office hours. And you know what? I recommend play around with the amount of time. If you've never done anything like this, sometimes for some people, it's like I can only set aside 10 minutes. And other people, it's like I need to set aside 30 minutes. There's no right or wrong, but set aside a consistent period of time each day. You can start with 10, maybe it's going to be 20, maybe it's going to be 2, but you want to choose a time. Set your own office hours. I will recommend if you spend a lot of time, you struggle at night sleeping. This is a time where we sort of like, I know when I climb into bed and I'm falling asleep and my brain's like, oh, is this office hours? And it starts churning. That's not the ideal time. So ideally doing it a couple hours before bed, or ideally doing it at a time where you're free from interruptions. You do want to avoid sessions too close to when you go to sleep, because then it keeps it in your mind. So you want to have a little bit of a buffer there. So maybe you'll do it as part of the beginning part of a sleep routine if you have that. So choosing your time. Then I want you to, for this daily practice, at the beginning, we are going to be doing it daily. We want to be getting in the habit. You're going to set a timer for however long you want to do it. You're going to rip off one sheet. And this is why it's a pad and not a journal. We'll talk about that in a second. Rip off one sheet. And then I want you to just list the worries at first. There's a spot to list. And there's not a ton of room. Maybe you're going to have a lot more, so you can sort of list them in columns. You're just listing, and it's going to be one word, just a list. It could be big things or small things. You can have like, I'm worried about a parent who has a ailment, and I'm worried about what we're having for dinner. Like, no judgment of what you're listing. You're just listing anything that comes to your mind. We're focused on listing. We're not solving. This is not the time that we're solving. And then below and on the back of the page, you're going to free write continuously. You can go deep. You can let your brain elaborate. Let yourself catastrophize. Let yourself, like, I'm worried because they got in a fight with their childhood friends that they're going to be ending up living with me for the rest of their life because no one's going to like them. Like, let yourself go. There's no logic. We're just trying to get it out. Now, sometimes you may not have a lot to say. Sometimes you may have multiple pages that you need. This is the place where you want to let it out and give yourself. You're not giving yourself limits. You're letting your brain have that freedom. It's even okay to repeat worries. So I'm still worried about that. And sometimes elaboration, sometimes you want to elaborate. And sometimes I find myself, say if I'm worried about a specific kid, I'll see that kid's name. Just I'll be, worried about, worried about this launch and worried about this podcast episode, and then the kid's name, and then with this, and then I'll go on for a little bit. What if this happens? What if that happens? Why are they doing that? Then when your buzzer is up, there's a couple things that you want to do. So you let yourself, and that's why you'll know you can play around with how much time. I wouldn't give it endless hours of time. I would try to, but initially, if this is the first time you're doing it, you'll have to figure out what the right timing is. Our goal is to get it kind of shorter and shorter, right? But when the buzzer is up, this is really the third step, is a compassionate cool down, is what I call it. Because as you're writing and worrying, you're usually getting amped up. So what we're doing is we just want to calm our nervous system down. Maybe you're going to just do a couple low and slow breaths, maybe some light movement. You're going to walk, you're going to stretch. Maybe you're going to want to shake it out. You're going to ragdoll. Maybe you're going to do something that you find calming, like reading something uplifting, doodling, repeating a mantra that you find really calming. And I want you to celebrate allowing yourself to worry during this time. Good job. Like you showed up at office hours. The other thing that you can do at this point is a safety sequence, which if you work with me, you know that is my go-to tool. Reminding yourself, am I safe? I am safe in this environment. Getting into your body, noticing what's happening in ragdoll. These are ways that you can cool yourself down. And the last step is throw your paper away. Rip it up, burn it, do whatever you need to do. We are not writing. This is the reason why I did not create a worry journal. This is supposed to get thin and be thrown away. This is the container. The other reason, I know that some people may say like, well, why aren't we just using any piece of paper that we want? Because we're training the brain that this is where worry goes, and then I get rid of that. Because we use paper for everything. If not, what you'll find happening is you have a piece of paper around here and you have a piece of paper around there, and you start getting overwhelmed with like all the sticky notes and all the blank pages. Trust me, I've done it a million times. I see it. Or I have a journal filled with all my worries. No, you take a paper, you rip it off, you throw it away. We're not trying to keep this forever journal. We don't need to reread it and revisit the worries over and over, because chances are tomorrow some of the same worries you're going to be writing about. We're giving our worries a very confined container and space and voice. And then we're letting them go and we're starting fresh the next day. There is something very, very freeing about ripping it up, burning it up. This is a technique that those of you who do some work with chronic pain and chronic illness and chronic symptoms, and you work with me, you know that this is something we do. We do the journaling and we get rid of it. Very, very, very powerful. So that is the protocol in a nutshell. Simple, but not easy. Simple is just following these steps. Not necessarily easy, because I know what your next question is like, all right, well, I set my worry time, but the worries still show up all day long. Now, what do I do with those? Well, this is kind of the point of the practice. It's kind of like meditation. If you ever hear people say, I'm not very good at meditation. Why aren't you good at meditation? Because my thoughts are all over the place. That's the point. The point of meditation is the returning to the breath. We don't meditate so that we don't have all our thoughts leaving. The strength of meditation is training ourselves to return to the breath. We know we're going to go off. We come back. Same thing with worry time. These moments when the worries pop up is actually when rewiring happens, because we're redirecting it. So worry thoughts appear during the day, not a signal that you're doing anything wrong. Remember, they're going to knock. But really what it is the sign your brain is actually doing what it's trained to do. It's scanning, it's protecting, it's trying to keep you safe all the time. And so the skill is not to stop these knocks or stop these thoughts. The skill is to open the door when it's office hours. So what you can do when they pop up is you want to acknowledge the worry. You can be sort of yelling through the door. Yeah, hello, I know, I hear you, I notice, I know you're there. We're not going to debate. We're not going to give it time. We're not going to create a whole storyline. We're not going to spiral. We're just going to have oh, I notice you. There you are. And just that acknowledgement without the resistance of why does this keep coming up? As we start doing it, we become aware. This alone breaks our pattern because, oh, I'm aware. Oh, look, that worry just showed up. It breaks our automatic slide into rumination by noticing that it's there. And then the second thing we're going to do, so I heard the knock, there's the knock. The second thing that I'm going to do is I am going to send that worry a very clear message. And I want to do it with compassion. You've got all the time later on. Remember at 4 o'clock, we're going to worry about it then. Come back to office hours. I will answer your questions at the end. Don't worry. I will answer your questions at the end. This is important because you're not dismissing, you're not trying to resist, you're not trying to block, you're trying to contain it. You are communicating safety and structure to your nervous system. You're teaching your brain that not every single thought earns immediate attention. So that's why I will say, like, I'll handle this later. Just not now. We're not going to do this later. And then you want to shift your attention back to what you were doing. And this tiny redirection, that's the repetition. We're rewiring the brain. So you acknowledge it, you let it know we're going to take care of it, and then you shift back. And then you may be pulled over, just like in meditation. You know, your thought, you're spinning, you're noticing, oh, I'm away from it. You come back to your breath. And then a few minutes later, you're off again in other thoughts. You come back to your breath. You keep training. You keep moving through it. This is training for the brain. It's not problem solving. We're not trying to figure out the worries. We're just training. And again, it's simple, but not easy. You're teaching your nervous system that not every thought is a threat. Not everything that is uncertain is an emergency, and not every discomfort is danger. Every time you redirect, you are reducing that alarm by just a tiny little degree. And over time, the intensity will drop and the frequency will drop because you're training. It's all about repetition of redirecting. Now, I love using two different analogies, whichever one resonates with you. They're very, very similar. And I hate to say that having a toddler is very similar to having a puppy. I often hear having a puppy is very similar to having a baby, and I totally agree. Your brain right now is like a little puppy. And it goes towards anything that feels interesting or activating. It doesn't have impulse control yet. It doesn't know what's harmful or what's helpful. It just does what puppies do. It explores, it checks, it chews shoes, it gets into mischief. And when you're training a puppy, you as an adult, a CEO, you don't shame a puppy for chewing the shoe. You kind of expect that puppies are going to chew your shoes. And you don't yell at the puppy, how many times do I have to tell you? Because you don't really expect the puppy to know better. What you do is you notice the puppy has the shoe, you interrupt it, and then you redirect the puppy. Go play with your ball. And you do that over and over and over again. You don't just expect, I told that puppy one time. You're training them because you're going to do that again tomorrow. They're going to go after those shoes. And that's what your worries are going to show up, and you're going to redirect them. The puppy is going to go for that shoe many, many times, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because that is how learning works. Your brain is the same. It's going to return to the same mental grooves all the time. I'm used to worrying. I'm used to worrying. So when worries sneak in there, it's not because you're regressing or you haven't figured out yet. That's just what you've rehearsed. That's just the pattern that you have. Your only job is to notice, interrupt, and redirect. Same thing with a toddler. Think about a toddler, say, learning to walk. They keep heading towards the stairs. You don't shame them. Why do you keep going in that direction? You don't panic. You don't demand that they be more mature. You step in and you guide. You redirect. again and again and again. Not because they shouldn't head to the stairs, but because they're building the capacity to navigate their world safely. And your brain is doing the same thing. It's heading towards that familiar place of worry. It's not trying to sabotage you. It's because that is a pathway that it has had. Your job now is to step in and guide and redirect and to practice doing that. And we practice doing that without shame, without fighting, just simple redirection. Because remember, you cannot stop a worry from showing up, just like you can't control if somebody knocks on your door. But you can choose whether you open it. So when the worry comes during the day, it's not a failure. You can just be like, oh, great, this is the opportunity for me to interrupt again, the repetition opportunity. Each redirect is one more rep that is teaching your brain it's not urgent. This can wait. I'm safe right now. And that is how we build up containment and reduce the reactivity that we have to these things. So your brain's going to keep coming back to the worry. Just like the puppy goes to the stairs or the toddler goes to the stairs, the puppy's going to the shoe or the stairs, they're doing both. It's not a problem. That is just training. Your job isn't to get rid of all worries. Your job is to notice them, and guide your attention back to the present moment. Now, what if that I'll deal with this later isn't enough? So it sort of feels like, this is where I'm anticipating, yes, your worry's going to come. And you're like, okay, that's fine, Leah. But what if still me saying I'll deal with this isn't enough? We know redirecting to worry time is the foundation, but you and I both know we were going to have days where worry, it's not like it's just whispering. It feels like it's like a bulldozer and it's just pushing us over. It's refusing to leave. Now, it doesn't mean, again, that your practice isn't working. It just means that your nervous system needs more support. And instead of pushing your way through or spiraling through, there's a couple of backup strategies that you can try. All of them are really designed to bridge you back to containment, to tell your system to go to worry time. It's not to replace worry time. The first option is just doing a acknowledge, redirect, and then doing some grounding. Regulating yourself just for a second. So if a worry keeps circling back after you redirect it, it's usually not a thought problem. It's usually a nervous system state problem. Your nervous system is a little bit activated, so the thought is going to keep resurfacing. So in the moment, you can notice, all right, my mind is worrying right now. Not I'm failing, I can't do this right. What is wrong with me? Why is this happening again? No, you're just noticing it. And then you can turn to something like your breath. Do a breath reset. 2 or 3 exhales longer than your inhales. Just really downshifting. You can do that physiological sigh, 2 breaths in through your nose, a longer exhale. Gently come back to the moment that you're in. Notice what your hands are doing, what your feet are doing, touching, grounding yourself, and then repeat that containment cue. I have time for this. It's not now. I'll do this later. So really it's about regulating your body, not trying to stop the brain. It's getting into your body and slowing everything down. The same thing you can do like that 5-minute safety check. You can use a safety sequence to regulate, but then you can also, if say your worry feels like this is too big to postpone for later, again, we're not trying to problem solve. We're not trying to get ahead of the worry. Just we can simply lower the intensity so your system can wait until worry time. So maybe just set your timer for 5 minutes and you can work through some scenarios. Maybe you'll work through, okay, I've got worst case scenario and most likely scenario. So write it down without any drama, letting your nervous system, instead of catastrophizing, come to reality. So you can just block it down. You can even, maybe that's when you use a little sticky note. You got it written down, go stick it on top of your pad. I'll get to you later. So there's a little bit of that relief that you've done something. Kind of creates a sense of containment instead of that urgency. So it's like a bridge. It's not a response, it's not a replacement. You're not doing a full worry time. You're just doing a couple things, training. So you're letting, you're just giving it a little snack. We're going to eat later, but here's a little snack because it sounds like you feel like you're going to pass out if you don't get something. Physical grounding is really another way to shift into your body, because worry is cycling in your mind. Once worry triggers anxiety, that means your body has now joined the conversation, because anxiety lives in your body. So redirecting the thought sometimes is not enough. You've got to shift your physiology. So using that safety sequence again can be really helpful, or using something like the 5-4-3-2-1 orienting technique. Naming 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can, I can't remember what are my senses, sight, hearing, touch. I'm missing one. Anyhow, you know what, that going through those orienting procedures, just as a way to tell your nervous system that you're present. That's what that 5-4-3-2-1 does. It gets you out of your head, gets you into the environment through your senses. Or maybe you do like a quick body scan where you just get in your body, notice where you're tense. Or maybe you do some movement, shoulders rolling, just jumping, shaking it around. Again, using your body gets you in the present moment. That's what we're trying to do. They're trying to shift your state. Moving it. And then lastly, really redirecting activities. Sometimes the brain actually does need something more concrete to chew on. So your brain will have maybe mental energy that you're going to, instead of giving it more catastrophic thoughts, you can give it something neutral or something engaging. We're not trying to avoid, but we're trying to redirect attention. So it's sort of like the puppy keeps going back to the shoe and you keep pulling it away. Well, give the puppy a ball. Give the puppy something to play with. So if you find that happens to you, go put a podcast on, listen to music, call a friend, do something, move through, doodle, do all these things. These are sort of temporary anchors. So when redirecting doesn't stick, it doesn't mean that you're not doing something wrong. It usually means that your system needs more, which means that you need to get into your body. How do you know things are working? Well, these are some of the key success factors. Consistency matters. Your brain learns through repetition, not necessarily through intensity. One day of doing this is not going to change anything. 30 days? Well, absolutely will. You're training a new pathway. You're training worry showing up, acknowledging it, redirecting, containing it until worry time. It's a pattern, a new pattern. We're slowly building up a new muscle. The other thing is we're not going to be doing these problem solving during worry times. Skip out on this. Worry time is not a place to fix your life. It's a place for you to list the thoughts without fueling them and feeding them. Whenever you start trying to problem solve, the worry gets reinforced. And your nervous system learns then, oh, see, worrying is useful. Let's do more of it. But the goal is just to capture and not to try to fix. Listing helps you break out of that habit loop. Trying to fix things will strengthen it. You also want to be kind to yourself. This will be key in your success. It's not a failure if you keep coming back to worrying. Remember, it's just a protective reflex. Judging yourself for worrying, it just adds another layer. It's like double suffering. Your job is to notice, to redirect. It's not to scold. It's not to judge. We're training a puppy. We're not punishing a puppy. Can also be really helpful if you set reminders. Your nervous system loves predictability. That's why we want to have a set time that we're doing, an alarm, a calendar notification, a reminder on your mirror. Pairing the practice with an existing habit can be really helpful. And then keeping supplies ready. It sounds funny, but if you have to go every single time and pull out, where's a pen, where's this, you're less likely to have that habit stick. So put your worry time somewhere that can be consistent. It reduces that friction, sends a cue to your system. This is my container. This is where it belongs. You're giving that worry a place. What you can expect is initially you're going to be uncomfortable. Your brain has been responding to worry the same way for years and years and years. And so interrupting the pattern, it won't feel natural. Expect the resistance, expect the urge to just think it through, because that's what you've always done. And it's not a sign that it's not working. It's a sign that your old pathway is a pretty strong pathway. The other thing to expect is progress is not linear. Some days redirecting will feel easy, other days it won't. Again, none of it means that you're off track. Healing is never a straight line because your nervous system is not a linear machine. It's living, it's responsive, it adapts to stressors and hormones and sleep and interactions in life. So it's not going to be linear. Some days are going to be harder than others, and that is part of the design. The hard days actually are going to strengthen the skill more than the easy ones. So that's the good news. They're where you build capacity and containment and self-trust, where you can say, I can actually redirect even when it's not convenient. And then you can often see benefits within a couple of weeks, fewer intrusive worries, less urgency, shorter spirals, more presence. Not because your worries will completely disappear, but your relationship with them changes. You're teaching your brain that these thoughts can wait. And when your brain learns that, everything feels lighter. Now, worry time, it's not just a certain hack. It is a practice that slowly will reshape how your nervous system responds to uncertainty. And the benefits of it, they kind of unfold in layers. First in how you feel, and then how you respond, and eventually in how you live. So we can have some immediate improvements where we have this reduced frequency of intrusive thoughts. You may find your sleep improve. You have more mental energy, clearer thinking. And then longer term, as you continue doing this, this is where deeper nervous system work shows up. Transformative. Your brain learns new ways to handle uncertainty. It increases its resilience to stress. You have better emotional regulation, more confidence in handling challenges, and more focus and more productivity. To maintain your practice, though, can be challenging. Life gets busy, old patterns take over. So I really offer to you, try to continue daily sessions, even if you start to feel better. Because often what happens is we stop practices the moment we feel like, oh, this is kind of working. We don't want to lose the integration phase. You may need to adjust timing as your life shifts. That's okay. Your worry time doesn't need to stay fixed forever. Maybe you need to move it or adapt it, make it workable. And then do periodic check-ins. How am I reacting to worry lately? Am I redirecting or am I slipping back into my old patterns? And celebrate your progress. Celebrate it. It anchors. When we celebrate, it anchors it into our nervous system, a new pathway, reinforces safety and empowerment and self-trust. And your brain learns, okay, this feels better. Let's keep doing it. The last thing I just want to share with you is there are resources in the classroom that you can use as well in the school classroom. There's the Worry Trap Reality Guide, the What Ifs to What Now prompts. There's some worry time troubleshooting. There's a Is This Worry Mine micro assessment, because what happens is sometimes we're worrying about things that's not even for us to worry. We just love the habit of worrying so much we take on other people's worries. And there's also a worry language detox guide. So really invite you to go through that. So choose your daily worry time. Set up your worry space with supplies. Set a daily reminder. Try to do it for 30 days. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. And just remind yourself your daily mantra is going to be, I'm going to address this during worry time. I'm going to address this during worry time. And that will help you reclaim your energy and your mental space. All right. Now it's the question time for worry time. See, we get there. Your brain can do that. Okay, somebody asked how to move from worry to planning. Yeah, that is such a great question because if we go back to what I talked about, planning is very action oriented. Worry is often passive, that we keep spinning over and over and over. So you can start with looking at worry time. Can you move the worries over? Asking yourself, is there something that I can do that will move or change the situation for the better? Then I can plan to do that. But most of the time, when we're spinning about worrying, like I said, there's enough worry that it gets you to do something. That's okay. But most of the time, we just think that it's solving all those myths. I have to worry. It's my job to worry. I don't care. It's responsible. I can prevent things. So asking yourself, the big distinction is it moving me forward? Is worry coming up? Is a worry coming up in my mind different than a to-do list item coming up in my mind? Is the difference dwelling on it? Thank you for addressing that. If I want to write a little note to myself to save for later on, I can. Yeah. So worry coming up in my mind is a to-do list. Well, a to-do list item that comes up can be something that, yeah, I know I planned for it. We want to keep to-do lists to give our brain freedom to focus on the actual doing. But if you have a to-do list and your mind keeps going over that same thing, it's not serving what the purpose is. You are spending more time worrying. So you want to redirect. Hey, it's already on my list. I know it's going to get done because I've given it a container. So that to-do list, worrying about the to-do list, you can remind yourself and redirect. Hey, it's already on there. We can worry about this later. I'm going to redirect to do myself something else. So much of my worry just feels like dread. Yeah. Yeah. That can be our type of worry. That's the pathway of your worry. But I really like this practice. I'm excited to see what happens with this practice. I really encourage you to try this practice out. Again, we're not shaming and we're making it wrong. That worry is knocking on your door. But initially, you may answer it all the time, but gradually you're going to stop inviting it to move in. And you're feeding it and doing its laundry and you're taking care of everything. Eventually, you can just allow worry to knock on your door. Oh, hello. I'm going to deal with you later. You can have a seat on my front porch. We're just redirecting and retraining the pathways. It is a training for your brain. Awesome. Those are all the comments. Does anybody else have any questions? Any more tips to give yourself self-compassion? Yes, there are lots of self-compassion. Um, Self-compassion is really our ability to acknowledge and accept and sort of be present with what's going on. I love to normalize things. If you're in my programs, you'll often hear me say, validate, normalize, permission to feel. Validate, this is hard. This is hard work for me. This is coming up. Maybe worry feels really natural. Normalize. Yeah, it's for a lot of us. It makes sense. I've been doing this for a long time. And permission to feel whatever is coming up. And then really self-compassion, allowing yourself to have that loving kindness. How do you talk to yourself? If you want to go into the community, the language detox guide, look at the words that you use. How do you talk to yourself? Can you give yourself some type of reward? Are you celebrating? Self-compassion is part of celebrating everything that you're doing as well. I have an episode on my podcast about self-compassion. It's from a couple of years ago, but almost everything that we talk about, I can redirect you to the Building Resilience podcast. There's lots of episodes. But yeah, great question. You said you have 3 products. I must be missing one. The first product is, let me grab them here. We have the Resilience Journal. This is where you get the whole framework helps you understand what your nervous system is, maps out your nervous system, and then there's 90 days to help you build the habits for creating and benefiting good nervous system health, befriending your nervous system. This one is my safe space affirmation and journal cards. Actually, today, if you listen to the podcast, I talk all about the importance of safety with affirmations. So basically, all they are, they're cards, and it does come in this little case. There's a journal, a blank journal that has some instructions at the beginning to guide you through, and then there are cards on a little wooden stand. And on each card, there is an affirmation, and then there is a journal prompt. And then the third one is the worry time pad. That is the third one. It is going to be available soon. If you're in this workshop live, then you already have yours. That's how we had the benefit of this workshop. And I do have a fourth one coming out in the spring, which I'll give you a sneak peek on it. It is a doodle one. It is 12 weeks where I walk you through together doodling your nervous system, doodling all the things to help set you up for good mental health. So I'm super excited about that. Can any rumination thoughts be worry? Yeah, such as something that is making you angry and ruminating the unfairness of a situation. Yeah, I would write that down. So when you list that, you may just want to label the thought. I'm ruminating about, and like, what are you ruminating about? Are you ruminating about a past thing, a person? Are you ruminating? Just list it and then allow yourself, because we want to feel free that we can express everything we want to express, but just because we're having thoughts doesn't mean it's true or accurate, but we want to give it a space. And we don't want it intruding in our active present life. So we can just give it a space. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And I appreciate you being in my world. If you have any questions about worry or the nervous system, you can find me at Leah Davidson Life Coaching on Instagram and Facebook. I have the Building Resilience podcast. It's also on YouTube. And I also have my community on SKOOL, which right now is called the Nervous System Journaling Club. It will be shifting a little bit. Still focused. Don't you worry about nervous system. I will never get away with that. And we'll just keep going from there. I wish you luck on your worry time journey. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.